Guys, the chicken is here. We are back today with another home gym video. In today's video, guys, I wanted to talk about home gym basement flooring. So this is going to be more so for people kind of similar to my situation. Not necessarily you're starting a home gym in a finished garage or a new home where it's pretty straightforward what you have to do in terms of flooring. I'm going to just talk about like older homes, some things you need to do to prep the floor. In like an unfinished basement type setting. Some important things to know that I learned firsthand that I wish I knew going into it. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. So the house I live in, if you watch my videos, you know, it's an older home. It was built in like 1903, 1904. I actually live on a wetland and the basement was completely unfinished and not meant as a living space. So the problems I was facing was the main thing right off the bat was the water. I couldn't have gym equipment sitting in water. It's going to rust. It's going to, make mildew, mold. It's bad for breathing and things like that. Now, I don't have unlimited money to come in. Ideally, what you would do is you would trench. You'd get an excavator to come in. You'd trench around the side of the house. You would put up, what is it called, like the weeping tile or whatever, and then you'd fill it in with river stone or something like that, and then kind of build up a slope so then all the water goes away from the house and it doesn't have access to come in the house. Another thing about older homes is you'll see here, if you look closely at the walls, they're all stone. So they're all field stone, like rubble walls. That's the foundation that the house sits on. And they're not waterproof either. They're just rocks. They're basically made with, it's like, how they would do it is kind of cool. If you look into it, it's like the old farmers would make these houses and they would build the foundation out of rocks that they found around the property in the ground. And so it's literally just rocks and mud and clay. And, they're huge. It's a 3-foot thick wall. So, I mean, structurally it's great. But it does allow some water seepage to get through if it's not, finished like we just talked about. So that's something to look out for too. You'll get water coming in through the walls. You'll get water coming up through the floor. And the way these old basements are designed is they're actually designed to handle that water. It's not a big deal if you come down, and see a puddle of water on the floor. Because another thing is it's sloped to drain, right? So I don't know how well you can see this in here, but where are we looking? Yeah, so right here you can see there's actually a drain line cut into the floor. And the whole floor slopes this way towards the sump pump. So it's designed to handle excess water. Now, when we're looking at building a home gym down here, that's obviously, we got to make sure it's a dry space, right? It's got to be a dry, clean space. So what do we do if we don't have tons of money to fully waterproof it? Because to do that through a company, you're looking at like, 10, 20 grand Canadian anyways. So wasn't really in the cards. So what I ended up doing, I had a couple options. I had to test out the floor first to see how uneven it really was. Because like I said, it's meant to drain. So there's high spots, there's low spots. Now, going back, I kind of wish that I had invested my money in doing that, making sure it was even. But at the same time, if you are going to take water, you want to make sure it drains still too, right? So there's a positive and a negative to that. But I knew, like, from the, when I checked it, I knew it was going to be level enough where it's like, my stuff wasn't going to be super off balance. You can see over in the corner there, the box, I've got some shims on it just because the ground is still kind of unlevel. But, and you can see on my deadlift platform too, I got some shims underneath it as well just to help it stay level. So, I mean, there's ways around that. And unless it's like a huge deal where your stuff's going to be like wobbling or it's not going to fit or whatever, then obviously that's something you got to take care of first. So yeah, step number one is try to manage the water. So what I did was I parged in spots where I saw obvious, ways the water was getting through. So any holes in the walls, typically you got to parge these walls every now and then in these types of homes. So just check for where it seems like the water's coming in. It wasn't too bad here. There's a couple spots that are bad, and I think it's mostly due to eaves troughing now. So that's another easy thing you can do. Make sure your eaves troughs are cleaned. Maybe look into investing into eaves troughs if you don't have them, just to get the water away from the walls, away from the house. That's all we're trying to do. So yeah, those two things. And then, so for me, I ended up finding out that the water, it wasn't a huge problem. It did come in some spots, but it wasn't like flooding. It wasn't, you know, I could mop it up with a towel. It wasn't a big deal. So from there, once I checked once I tried to control the water, once I found the floor was even enough where I could mess with it, then from there, I decided to paint the floor. So it was just like, you know, dirty, dusty, old. It's a concrete foundation, slab foundation, but yeah, it was just dirty and musty, and it was always dusty and hard to keep clean. So I painted with an epoxy paint, just like a typical garage floor ceiling kind of paint. I probably have it somewhere back here. So I painted it. Simply rolled it on. I did it was a lot of prep work. It was like a week of prep work. I had to acid wash everything. I had to bring a pressure washer in and just get 100 years worth of dirt and dust off the floor. But yeah, so the prep work and then the painting. And the painting also does help keep some water out. The problem with waterproofing a space that's not meant to be waterproofed, if you were to do it completely from the inside, you're going to get that water buildup, and it is going to come in somewhere. So just something to keep in mind. But anyway, so I went with just like a typical epoxy garage floor paint. I used the Flex, as you can see, and it turned out really nice. But I'm kind of wishing that I had made sure the floor was like perfectly super even first, and then maybe gone ahead with the painting, because the painting was easy. It was just a prep work for the painting that took forever. So you can see here, now that we're talking about painting, you can see here, I got some of these spots everywhere. So that's just from where water was coming in and lifted up the paint. So once I resealed that, again, I used the same kind of paint. I haven't had any issues. And yeah, so the next thing is, this is kind of going into why I don't like horse stall mats. I've talked about this before, but typically what people do in a home gym is they cover everything in horse stall mats. And this is for a couple of reasons. Number one is typically to protect the foundation of wherever you're lifting. Horse stall mats are super thick. They're going to absorb some sound. They're going to absorb vibration, and they're going to absorb some of the load. So it's not just all, if you're deadlifting or crossfitting, whatever, dropping plates. Obviously you couldn't do that on the floor. So yeah, most people go with horse stall mats. It also gives it like that gym kind of look, which is kind of nice. And then if you do drop a plate, you're dropping it on rubber versus dropping it on concrete, which is probably going to crack either your foundation or the plate itself. So now I didn't go with horse stall mats. I did it first, but that was a mistake because like I said, the area gets moist, it gets wet, it gets damp. Not crazy amounts, but enough that it builds up over time. And what I found in the horse stall mats that I was using, it just became like a nesting ground for little critters and bugs, like the little water bugs, spider stuff, loved it. So it was just really gross, and I did get a bit of a smell from them, so I tore them all out. I completely removed them. And I also wanted to do this because it was a lot of work to paint the floor, and I love how the floor looks. It looks beautiful. So I wanted that to be kind of the main focus of the floor, was the paint job, not necessarily these horse stall mats. And yeah, I didn't like them for the bugs and stuff, obviously too. But yeah, so horse stall mats are great, but they're not great for everybody in every situation. So I still use them. I use them in my deadlift platform. It's just horse stall mats and plywood. I got one under the squat rack just to help make it feel more secure and balanced. And yeah, so typically people do that. They'll then fill up the space with horse stall mats. I mean, the ideal scenario is you've got a new foundation, you can slap down some horse stall mats and never think about it again, right? Super easy, super cheap. This took a little bit more time. It was a lot more work, but given what it is, that was kind of unavoidable. So yeah, so that's basically it. So we want to make sure it's waterproof. We want to make sure the floor is even enough where we can use our gym equipment. And then we want to decide what we're going to do. Are we going horse stall mats? Are we going paint? What are we going to make our floor out of next? So that's what we got to look at when it comes to lifting in a basement. Fun stuff, but hopefully it helps, maybe somebody out there, because I didn't see any videos on this. Typically anyone that was making a home gym, when I was doing it anyways, was everyone was doing it in like a finished garage or like a new home construction, something like that. So yeah, that was my experience putting this down here. And it still does get wet from time to time. I'll get some water seepage through the floor. As long as I stay on top of it, it's not a big deal. I can clean it up before it's, you know, gonna start rusting away any equipment or cause any mold problems. It takes mold like a good while to grow. It would have to be, you know, I'd have to leave it for like a few weeks or something like that. So it's not like as soon as something gets wet, you're gonna instantly grow mold. But anyways, so that's what I did for my floors, guys. I hope that helps somebody out. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and let me know what your gym flooring is down below in the comment section. So always, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is gonna wrap it up for the video today. Make sure to leave a like, kind of interesting, entertaining, or informative, and we'll catch you next one, guys. Chicken out.